Hello and welcome to the podcast You're Better Than That, hosted by me, Hannah Miller, and joined by my friend Zoe Rosswoodell.
Hello.
Hello. Today's episode is going out just after my birthday, just 2 days after my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I mean, it's not my birthday today. We are pre-recording because of holes and because you pre-record a podcast. But yeah, this will be going out to all of you just after I've had my birthday. And so we thought that could be a good chance to reflect on life in the middle of life, in the midpoint of life. I just wanted to start by mentioning a book called The Second Mountain, which I think is a great book that fits with so much of what we do. The Second Mountain is a book about the two mountains of life. The first mountain is all about the pursuit of personal success and career and self-recognition. And the book talks about the second mountain of life, which is when we shift gear to it being more about relationships, community, and values. Now, what's really interesting about this first and second mountain is that some people reach the second mountain and they're really young. So this doesn't have to be that the second mountain comes at midlife or later or at deathbed. Some people reach the second mountain very late in life because they've pursued first mountain for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about how there is a valley between the two mountains, and that valley is normally an event. A big event or some sorts of event that destabilize us, all the stuff around transition, everything we've been talking about just lately. Perhaps it could be midlife, which is where the whole midlife crisis comes from. There's been enough stuff that's happened that have brought us to that point. Or it could be another life event at a very different point in our life, like the loss of a loved one or a relationship breakdown or a new relationship or a faith experience or whatever that puts us in this valley moment that causes us to reevaluate. And people who go through that reevaluation process effectively, he talks about move to the second mountain.
Mm-hmm.
So you could actually arguably be 21 and move from first to second mountain. It often happens to people in the middle years of life because enough stuff has come down the tracks for them to be reevaluating. And he talks about how in the second mountain of life, we shift towards this relationships, communities, and values. And some of the key things to kind of make pillars in that part of your life are your vocation. So we switch from the word career to vocation. Relationships, like those meaningful relationships, whether that's long-term partner, marriage, or other family or friendship relationships that we have real depth with. He then talks about being led by a philosophy or faith. So you could use either of those languages, a deep sense of what your personal philosophy or faith is, and the element of community, i.e. beyond ourselves, the community we're a part of, giving back to that wider sense. And so he talks about reaching second mountain being a really important thing for us to do in our life and recognizing where that shift is taking place. And I would say I'm well and truly on second mountain, both age, but also probably the way I see the world. And I just thought it was a really good concept.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so connected to the purpose pursuit and the people who were listening and the stuff around transition. The book was recommended to me by someone called Fiona many years ago, but a few people have recommended it to me since then, actually, as this new way of looking at second half of life, which could occur from a very young age.
Yeah.
We have a mutual friend who lost his sister recently, and he said to me, and he's in his 20s, and he said to me that event has meant that everything has to matter now.
Mm-hmm.
So he's arguably climbing his second mountain,
Mm-hmm.
and he's in his 20s.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't have to be an awful tragic event that causes this to happen, but it is normally something that makes us go, what is this about?
Yeah.
So second mountain, I thought it was a really good little point,
Really
which
good concept.
kind of leads into what we said we were going to do today,
Yeah.
which was 10 quick reflections from the midpoint of life.
Yeah.
These are like little proverbs, little learnings from me. We're going to do them quick, otherwise we'll be here forever, and then it'll get lost in all the noise. So I'll try and do a few sentences on each one.
10 tips.
Punchy, 10 tips. This is not an exhaustive list. I feel I want to say that because there'll be loads of things I've not thought of. But these are 10 things. And a few people on Instagram gave some thoughts around this, which have helped shape my thinking as well. So thank you to those of you that did that. The first one, from Lessons from the Midpoint. And the point of this is, if you're in midpoint, this can be useful. If you're beyond midpoint, it can be useful.
Yeah.
And if you're nowhere near it yet, hear it now so you don't have to learn the lesson at my age. So you can listen. Number one I put was, and they're not in an order, but number one, appreciate your body. I think one of the things I've realised that has featured far too highly in my life is negative feelings about my body and not appreciating the fact it works. I had a friend who had a major life event through a significant brain injury, which meant that suddenly the body that she'd had didn't work how it did anymore. And you suddenly realise how much you take your body for granted. And I think I'm realising, having had some injuries over the last couple of years, nothing life-threatening, but just like long-term muscular problems, that I didn't appreciate my body when it was working. And I didn't appreciate my body when it was in its 20s. And I thought my body was horrible. And actually, it was a lovely, healthy 20-something's body. And I think my life lesson that I'm currently working on actually is to love and appreciate my body as a wonderful gift that it is, that it houses my soul and my thinking and my brain and my heart, and it allows me to live. And I want to appreciate it and care for it and not hate on it.
That's really good.
I come from a generation, though, where I do think we've made progress here. I really do. I think I look at 20-somethings and don't get me wrong, I think there is still a long way to go, but we have made progress. I grew up on Special K diets and the supermodel era of the Kate Moss & Co. And I think there's a lot to be said for what my generation was fed around body that's definitely more healthy now than it was. Definitely more body confidence and health, and being about being fit and being healthy rather than being about skinny. And I think I want to grow my appreciation of my body, and I would like to have done that better for longer, for sure. Number two, because I said I was going to try not to. You mean you can give a thought on that?
No, it's amazing. Number two.
Number two. Somebody else gave this phrase to me, my friend Libby, but it was already on my list. This too shall pass.
Love that.
This too shall pass. That's J.R. Tolkien who said that. I think it comes from Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit, one of those books. My family will appreciate that reference. But it's just really the idea that everything that we're facing, the sleepless nights with a baby, the toddler tantrums, the pain of a situation, the hurt of a relationship, the dissertation to write, whatever it might be, this will pass and we'll come out the other side. And I think sometimes we get really locked in to the moment that we're in and think it's never ending. Having subsequent babies did mean that when I was doing the night feeds for my third baby, I knew this would pass. And I actually loved them and thought, these are going to come to an end, and this is a thing that I'm going to get to do, and then I'll never do it again. So sometimes we can only get it with hindsight, but just that very phrase, this too shall pass, is really good to remember.
I've only ever heard that with negative things. So it's really interesting how you can use that in something that's lovely and beautiful.
That's right. This too, enjoy this moment because it will too pass. That's exactly right. Enjoy the cuddles because they too will pass. It's true. In everything, it will pass and it will come out the other side. Kind of connected to that one is all we have is now. You realise this more and more as you get older, that all we have is now, I think. And young people can be so much better at embracing the present, and I think that's true. And I think as we get older, we're not so good at that. But I think there's two parts to what I mean by this. All we have is now, in terms of with all the plans we might make for our future and all the hopes we have for our life, all we actually have for definite is now. I don't know what I have in my life. I don't know the days numbered for me. What I do know is that time flies. And I do know that we go through this too shall pass. And I do know that I don't want to miss the opportunity to tell the people that I love them and what I appreciate about them.
Absolutely.
We know people, we've experienced ourselves, moments of life where you go, oh my goodness me, life has spun on a pin and now it's completely different. So all we have is now. That doesn't need to be fear-driven, but more of like, we have now, take now.
Use it.
Take now. Do the thing. All we have is now. What number was that? 3?
That's 3.
You're going to have to help me with the numbers. 4, embrace imperfection.
Wow, that's a big one.
Yeah, life takes squiggly directions. Things will not work out as you think they might. Life is rarely perfect. You're not perfect. Decide how you're going to handle and embrace the imperfection of life. And we talk about this a lot on the podcast, that most people all of the time have things that are perfect and things that are imperfect going on in tandem in their life. But if we are going to go driven hard after perfection, which is an absolute, doesn't even exist, it's a total fallacy. The only thing that's perfect, I think, is creation in its unaltered form. We've got to embrace imperfection along the way. Imperfect routes, the scenic route, things, really not being as you thought they might be. Embrace it, go with it, and alongside that, dismantle the idea that perfection even exists.
Sure.
Break down that, that's essentially, it's an idol that we look at perfection, and break it down as soon as you can.
Number
Keep going.
5.
Yeah. I'm going to cough. Choose your priorities or they will choose you.
Wow.
I know. I think that one sounds really good.
Yeah.
This to me is about, again, being the driver and not a passenger around how we spend our time and how we spend our life. If I don't make a decision about what my priorities are, other things will become my priority. Things that have trappings, things that other people want of me, things that are expected of me, or what look good to the outside world. If I decide my priority, let's say somebody just decides their priority is their health, you have to make that a priority and do it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it won't be one. If you decide family is a priority, if you make that choice, then other things fit in line with that priority rather than that fits in line with the priority. I've talked about a trilogy of books I've been reading loads, the Beartown one. Yeah. And one of the characters in that, he is a hockey coach. Previous to that, he was a hockey professional, and then he becomes a hockey coach. And what you experience over the 3 books is him realising that he had prioritised over and over and over again hockey and deprioritised other things. Sure. And then when hockey leaves his life, which inevitably it will, he's left really feeling empty. And he can't go back to the period of life that was gone. So I think whatever age we are, an assessment of what are my priorities, what do I want them to be, and making sure that the day or the week or the month ensures that those are being lived out. Otherwise, other things will just become priorities. Yeah. And you will lose the control over that. That's really I'm good. Still working this one out. Like, I really want to make that. In fact, I'm working all of these out. But that one feels quite like oof to me at the moment that I need to think about it.
Yeah. What are your priorities? What are you, or your values? What's at the top for you?
Faith, family, friends, fun, food. When I say food, I don't mean because I'm a foodie. I just like to eat. I'm not a foodie. Like, I am not one of those people. I have foodie friends and I will be their friends, but I'm not that. No, my faith, my family, my friendships, and people who aren't yet my friends. People, that doesn't begin with an F for people, and having fun. Yeah. And I think sometimes, by the way, that one, especially the fun one, can get deprioritised, which could have been, in fact, that is my next one, making room for fun. Yes. Making room for joy, making room for fun, making room for adventure. It's so easy to just get grown up.
So serious, yeah.
Somebody said, we were at Laura's hen party, weren't we? Yeah. And somebody said when we were there, it's just a great big con being an adult. They were joking, but they were like, you know, you want so much to be an adult, and then all these fun things where you could just go and ride a Tonka car, or go to toddler groups, or watch CBeebies or Balamory or whatever it is that you liked. Those were fun. Yeah. And then you become an adult and it's easy to just let fun get squeezed. Mm-hmm. And I think one of my midpoint reflections is I kind of had this reflection actually when I turned 40, that I really wanted to bring fun and adventure back. And there are, let's be honest, there are seasons that do involve a lot of responsibility. Mm-hmm. And you can't just go, I'm going to go and do wild things all the time. Spontaneous. But there are a few things I've done more lately where I think I did just do the spontaneous thing. Some things that I'm not going to share on this podcast that I just think, I just embraced young at heart again. And I just thought, I don't want to just lose that from my life. I'm going to do the fun thing.
I love that. I'm thinking of one moment too. for you.
Go on.
There was a time where a group of us friends, we were all out at a friend's birthday.
Oh, yes.
And someone spontaneously said, let's go to a nightclub.
Yes.
And Hannah was there.
Midweek.
I loved it so much.
There was only like two of us in our 40s, wasn't there? Me and Rach and her husband, who was made
just the best
to be there.
thing, though. I loved it.
And it was a school night.
But I loved it because you were like, I love
what
music.
What are we doing?
We had a bit of a dance. It was a Wednesday and it was beautiful. It was just so fun.
And I could have easily have just said, no, I need to go to bed.
I need to go home. But you were there right to the end and I loved it.
That was true. And somebody said, actually, a girl I met at Laura's hen party, who I don't know, she said, you do actually strike me as being somebody who's probably quite silly at times. And I was like, yeah, I am. But I want that to stay in my life, and I don't want that to. So whatever joy looks like for you, your version of fun might not be silly. It might be very, very different to mine. But actually joking, fun, not taking myself too seriously. In fact, let's add that in. Don't take yourself too seriously.
It's true,
don't like the version of me when I take myself too seriously. It's just not so fun. So that's that one. I'm now well and truly off the numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I've done 6,
7.
So I think this is 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 7, 8, 9, 10. 7, there is more to you than meets the eye.
Wow.
And I'm saying that to myself as thinking I've underestimated myself over and over. And I'm saying that to anybody who's listening because I know it to be true. Mm-hmm. It's the very work that we do, purpose pursuit work. There is so much more to you than meets the eye. There's so much more to you than meets the eye. I mean, you've got boundless potential, but I'm talking about Zoe for the podcast. But generally, listener, you've got boundless potential. There is so much more to you than you realise. Life, baggage, what other people have told you, responsibility, limited situations and opportunity have told you otherwise, but there is so much more to you than meets the eye. You just might need a little bit of help to figure that out. So I would want to say to somebody who's in their 40s or 30s or whatever age, 50s, 80s, I don't care. There is so much more to you than you might have any idea or realise. And by that, I don't mean that you're going to be on a world stage, but just that you've got so much to offer to the people around you.
Exactly.
So much more than you realise. So I think embrace the kind of proverb in this is try and figure that out and be a bit risky with who you are.
Hint, the purpose.
Yeah, hint, hashtag purpose pursuit. 8, today is the youngest you will ever be.
I love that.
I know.
It's also really sad.
I know. Same for you, same for me, same for Pax, dog who's off camera. Today's the youngest we'll ever be. I don't even know if I want to particularly expand that and just let that sit with people who are listening and just think, what does that mean for you? Today's the youngest you will ever be. What does that make you think? What does that stir up in you? What does that make you want to do differently when you think about that thought? What does that do to your decision making, the choice of your time? That's really all I want to say, really. I'm so much more aware of age at the moment. I don't know whether it's because I've got parents that are aging and they're aging and there's health issues for them. I was talking to somebody about this the other day and they were like, really? You think about that? And I'm like, yes, I think because I'm being confronted with age. And as we said the other day, age is no bad thing. It's in fact an absolute honour to get to a good old age. But today's the youngest I will ever be. And what does that mean? And what does that tell me about how to use this day and how to use my opportunities and life and words and all that? Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Go home and tell your family. Number 9. This is a bit of a I don't want this to be negative, but I think this is just a true. Life will be more and life will be less than you expect. I think that's a big thing I've realised. I'm so grateful. I've said this before. I'm so grateful. I have so much to be grateful for. But life has definitely been so much more than I could have expected. There is so much more to come. There are so many exciting things on the horizon. But there's loads of things it hasn't been as well. There are loads of things that have been sad, disappointing, brutal, not met my expectations. And I think if we just realise that's the case, rather than that being a right or a wrong or a thing, it's just a thing. There'll be things that are wilder than your wildest dreams and better than you could ever imagine. Then there are other things that you don't maybe live up to your expectation of what they are. And I think like just owning that feels really important to do.
Yeah.
And I think especially when you've got some years under your belt, rather than thinking, oh, is this it? Or is this really all it is? Is it just that I wipe the kitchen 500 times a day and make packed lunches? Is this kind of the sum total? No, but yes. Yes, that's all very much part of it. But no, that is not all it is. There is so much it is. There is so much to you. There is so much that you can experience. There is so much you've got to give to the people around you. There is so much more that you don't even know. I think this is maybe one of the reasons I love life stories. You know, we sometimes talk about podcasts I've listened to, which are people's lives. I think most great life stories involve this idea of there are things that have been awful or less than they expect, and then there have been things that have been beyond their wildest dreams. And I love listening to that. Those two things colliding and realising that both things are almost necessary.
Yeah. That's
if
so
it's
true.
always more than you expect, what's that? You know, what is that?
And it's also character building, the stuff that, and I don't say that in a flippant way,
No,
but
I know.
like it really builds character, and wounds and pain is what also adds to us as people.
Totally.
So.
They're the things that define and show us our perspective and make us human. It is humanity that we handle more than we ever realised we could. I think I could saying that one is also, you are stronger than you realise, and you will weather storms that you don't think you could possibly weather. And I say that knowing I've many storms to weather, many unknown ones. But I do believe that we can, and I do believe that we can, you know, find growth in those things. So I think life is more and less than we expect. And the last one, it's never too late to start.
Love that.
It's never too late. I love it when I find things on the internet where it says things like, I don't know, I'm making this statistic up, so don't quote me, something like 65% of businesses are started by over 50-year-olds. There are things like that, you know, there are loads of things out there. The number of people who've done some of the most amazing breakthroughs over the centuries were not whippersnappers. They were quite old. You know, some of the best leaders we've known, or inventors, or activists, or pioneers, or whatever it might be. Let's just stop making age a thing. Why is it too late to decide to want to have a completely different career? Just do if you want to do it.
And there's this weird celebration of the younger you do something,
the better.
And it's so weird, isn't it?
It is. There's a Forbes under 40 list, which was all about, you know, the most successful under 40s. They have started doing an over 40 or an over 50. I can't remember which one it is. But that's a new list they've started to do, which is a Forbes over 40. And that's because of a pushback, really, that why do we have to say that the younger you are? Actually, isn't there something unbelievable around seeing somebody who, I don't know, a sporting legend or whoever it might be, and they're like, look at you doing that thing.
Absolutely.
And you're 50 and you're 60 or 70 or whatever it might be. Let's celebrate the thing that somebody goes out and does, and make it less about whether they did it when they were 12 or not. Because I also think, what's the point in rushing it?
It's so true.
You know, when you see people who've got all of their music grades and they're like, have done everything by the time they're 11. I mean, it's massively impressive, don't get me wrong. But I also think, well, you've slogged your guts out to do that. You could have just paced yourself. You could have done it and enjoyed it a little bit more, maybe. And I think there's something in this that it's more about when people start to be tentative about making a shift or a change in their life, because at absurd ages like 30, people start saying, I can't do that now, I should have done it already. And I just am like, no way. Do it at 30, do it at 40, do it at 50, do it at 60. We had somebody who did the Purpose Pursuit who really wanted to study further, and she did it when she'd retired. It didn't have to be that it was going to lead to a job. Just do the thing. Do the thing. So I think my last one is, and I feel like I'm feel like I'm trying to live this one out. It's never too late to do something. You're not in a race. Doesn't matter what age you are. You're not in any race with anybody else. Who cares how long it takes you? Who cares if you've done 10 other things beforehand? You've been busy doing other stuff, and now it's your turn. On that note, I'm just going to say, if you don't think it's worth you doing the purpose pursuit because you think, oh, I should have done it when I was 35 or whatever age you choose, I just am going to push back hard on that and say it's always worth it. We have had the whole range of ages.
What is the purpose pursuit?
What is the purpose pursuit? I'm glad you asked. The purpose pursuit is a digital coaching program with weekly live support from me and online resources to help individuals, particularly women at any kind of transitional crossroads point, to consider what's next for them. They're probably a little bit destabilized or losing a bit of confidence or clarity, and they would love to have the confidence and gumph to go after what's next for them, whether that is a job, whether that is a new life stage, or how they're going to spend their time, and they want more clarity to do that well. And they're people who want to live a life with purpose, and they don't just want to waft through it. They want to be second mountain people. So if you're a second mountain kind of person, come and do the purpose pursuit, because it's going to give you the tools you need. You can find out more in the show notes. You can DM me on Instagram. It's hello Hannah Miller. You can go to our website, which is hellosidekick.co, and you'll find all the things that you need. Just, get in touch somehow, and we'll make sure that you have what you need.